Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, lecture number 15. Today we'll be talking about the nuclear energy and particularly in the lights of nuclear power plants. The source of nuclear energy is the rearrangement of the proton and neutron to form more stable nuclei. It's definitely similar to the chemical reaction in which the electrons are arranged in such a manner like they become more stable. Uh, but in nuclear reaction, the stability is more concerned with the nuclei rather than the outside shell of electron. Why even in chemical reaction, the arrangement of electron would release certain amount of energy in the exothermic reaction. But when the proton and neutrons are arranged, the amount of energy released by the atom are huge. So that's why nuclear energy is the biggest source of energy, thermal energy, in terms of if you're comparing it with the chemical reaction. Um, there are two type of nuclear reaction, uh, and that one is the nuclear fusion, and the other is nuclear fission reaction. Fusion, as its name says, is a combination of light nuclei such as hydrogen nuclei to with a single proton to produce something heavier, and that would be such as like say, let's say helium neutron with having two proton and two neutron. That means like the fusion is the combination of two light nuclei to form a heavier nuclei. While the fission is the process of breaking apart the large nuclei, such as uranium, into smaller pieces, such as krypton or iodine. Both of these nuclear reaction release large amount of energy when they want to become more stable. And this form of energy, which is actually in form of heat, is utilized to produce steam and obviously to run the turbine using that steam. Um, in our lecture, the discussion would be more or less towards the nuclear energy and energy sources available for these purposes. In addition, we will be discussing about the waste that is produced by both the nuclear fission and fusion, and obviously we would be discussing this nuclear energy utilized in the nuclear power plants. We would also be discussing some of the disadvantage of using the nuclear energy, and that is when we are talking about the some of the disaster that's been actually or that occurred during the course of many years. One of the disaster was of the Chernobyl, which was in 1986. That launched public and political concern about the nuclear fission reactor safety. Then in the United States, the 3 Mile Island disaster was there, and the recent accident in 2001 in Japanese tsunami that was with the disaster in Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plants, which actually give a much more concern related to nuclear power plant safety. And that's after that disaster, many of the power plants or many of the nations actually they have decided to shut down its nuclear power plants altogether. And yes, but as far the nuclear share in the electricity is concerned, still we have got a huge number of power plants, a huge number of reactors, which are still in the world, operating in the world, which are producing the electrical energy by using the nuclear energy as a power source. Um, there are around like more than 435 nuclear power plants or nuclear reactors in the not nuclear power plants, nuclear reactors in the world. Um, Most of them, around like hundreds, they are in United States of America. The second largest nuclear power plants and nuclear reactors are in France, followed by Japan, Russia, and so on and so forth. If you can check it like Russian Federation itself, or if you can just check the uh, former Russian republics, so you would say like if we have got Czech Republic, Slovakia, uh, Bulgaria, Romania. So the Armenia, they were more or less, and yes, obviously the Ukraine is there. So they were more or less part of the USSR, United States, USSR, Soviet Republic. So that means like USSR was also one of the leading nuclear reactor um, country in the world. But nowadays, we can say like United States is one of them. But if we can just check, like in United States, around like 800 gigawatt of electrical energy is produced using the nuclear reactors or nuclear resources, while the second largest is France, in which around like 70, more than 70% of its electrical share is produced by the nuclear energy. So they have got power plants, and in which the contribution of the nuclear energy is around 76% in their total electrical share, followed by obviously Slovakia, Belgium, and so on and so forth.